Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back for another Mook review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the second issue of RHL Robot Hobby Life, the kind of spin-off series from GHL Gundam Hobby Life. This one is all about any other kind of different mecha models other than Gundam. So this issue is kind of all about Macross. Now, as you guys maybe have heard me mention before, Macross is not a series that I ever really got into, so it's not going to be one that I can give you guys too much information regarding like the actual source material. I'm just going to basically be focusing on the modeling in this book, and of which of course there's going to be a lot of really awesome modeling. If you guys have never seen any of my reviews looking at either the first issue of Robot Hobby Life or the many issues of Gundam Hobby Life that I've taken a look at in the past, these are really nice because they share a lot of really great finished works. There's not a whole lot of fluff or filler of advertisements and stuff like that in it, so there's a lot of really great content in here. With all that being said, let's go ahead and get into it here for today's video. Right, so as we can see right here on the cover, let's enjoy Macross more. The list price up here, 2,200 yen for this. That's 2,000 yen plus the 10% tax. So around $18, not too bad. As you can see, it's about like kind of standard thickness for a Mook. It goes to page 136, 138, around there. Got a few photos of the different forms of Bandai's new Macross kit there, I believe is what that is. It looks like we've got some other stuff in here. A work from Wild River, that'll be cool to find. On the back side, an advertisement here for some Gaia Notes new paint lines, some Ideon, what is that, Zabungle. It's more of Gaia Notes, awesome paints there. Alright, let's get into it. So up here, advertisement for a Gundam. So we are going to see at least a little bit of Gundam here in this one for the F90 FF manga series, I believe that is, from Kodokawa Comics. Yep, and here's our table of contents. Let's go ahead and get into it. So let's enjoy Macross more. So I guess this is a list kind of showing, even though we just had the table of contents, this one is just kind of a pictorial version of that where we have the like model numbers and then images for each one. So let's go ahead and check out the VFOA. Or VF0A. Well, I guess that's going to actually be starting from page 14 after we look at the YF19. Yes, this is Bandai's new HG model here. Have you guys built it? What do you think about it? I passed on it. Just like I said, not that huge into Macross, but also the color scheme didn't do it for me. That said, in this color scheme, it's much more appealing. I definitely like the look of it much more here. The Excalibur. So it's a really nice painted model here. Let's see who this one is by. This one is by Naoki. Yeah, so that makes sense. Usually, if you guys don't know, Naoki is the curator for Gundam Hobby Life and Robot Hobby Life, basically like the producer for this line of Mooks. And so, as far as I can remember, it's always his work, which is on the cover, and which is like kind of like the main work for the book. So anyway, yes, so this is by Naoki here. I guess we're going to see it here in the different forms, from Batroid form to Fighter form and Gerwalk mode over here as well. So it looks really nice. Here on the next page where you can see the color scheme like I was talking about, the original color scheme for this, how it's not as appealing for me. I definitely like it in this kind of much more traditional Macross looking kind of color scheme. I know some of you guys who are Macross fans are probably not going to like me in this video just because I'm sure I'm just going to be talking about stuff that's all wrong. But for me, like when I think of Macross, I don't necessarily think of like this kind of tan color scheme like this. You typically think of them being kind of more white, you know, with whatever other colors going on. So this more white based color scheme is kind of what I think of when I think of a traditional Macross looking color scheme. So this one's really cool here. This is the Phoenix. This is a Hasegawa kit. So I believe this is, let's see, I believe this is generally the same kit that I've built before. So I did build a Hasegawa Macross kit before, just snap built it. It's not painted or anything yet, although I am looking forward to painting it at some point because I think these kits do look really good once they're all painted. Just really nice details and everything on them. But these are the Hasegawa kits that do not transform. So you just kind of have it, you had to just buy it in whatever mode you want. So this is not the exact same one that I built, but it is a very similar one, I believe, as far as I can tell. Anyway, the one that I built was also a Batroid form one. But yeah, a lot of really nice detail on these, and I love the color scheme on this too. Really cool. The details and the very subtle weathering on it all look really nice. Probably going to be hard for you guys to even see any weathering on it, but hopefully you can see kind of little bits here and there. It is really, really subtle, like a tiny little bit of streaking. The one thing that I do find really interesting about Macross models, and this is not always true, it just kind of depends on the modeler's style, but a lot of times they're painted in the same way that you would go about painting an aircraft model, which makes sense, where we didn't really see that so much with Naoki's here. This is just kind of modeled in kind of a little bit more kind of your standard sci-fi mecha modeling, almost kind of like Gundam style kind of painting, just very clean and everything, even though I know Naoki does excel really quite well at the subtle weathering. You don't see it looking quite as like realistic, like quote unquote, as like a finish like this, where you have a little bit more kind of variation in the color and that subtle weathering like I'm talking about, which makes it look more like kind of a aircraft model kit in a way. So I do really like that about the Macross kits when I see them painted in that way. That does, I think, kind of make them quite interesting. All right, up next here, let's see who that one was by, sorry. That one was modeled by Yaz. This one is quite interesting here, being a Super Batroid Valkyrie VF1A, but what's with that head? Very different and unique, and because it has like the radome on the back, guessing that this is maybe meant to be some sort of like a reconnaissance type unit, and especially with like that black color scheme as well. Very unique guns. So this one has a lot of very interesting details going on in it, and I don't think that that's original to the kit, because looking at just the box art there for the kit, this is also a Hasegawa model. It looks like he's added a lot of like kind of little greebly type details around on the legs, on the head there, of course, on the gun. He just kind of added a lot of little parts and stuff on it to just make it look that much more unique, and it's very unique looking for sure. Again, really interesting color scheme on it, and again, modeled in a very similar way where you have that kind of very subtle weathering on it. A bit less subtle just because of the way that it's painted. This one looks like it's all kind of like hand painted, almost kind of very similar to like the way Max Watanabe paints, where your colors are kind of a little bit kind of splotchy, which makes it look kind of more realistic and more naturally weathered. So it does look really nice. Yeah, the color schemes and the added parts on there, I think fit really well, especially with that dark color scheme. Had it been like a light color scheme, I'm not sure the kind of detail parts that he has added on there would blend quite as nicely, but those look really quite cool. All right, now we got an armored Valkyrie here, modeled by Kei Shimizu. Another really great color scheme on this one. So this is kind of a really great example of what we've seen here with these past couple entries, that for myself, even though like if I, was not that big of a fan of Macross, and, if I had no idea what this line of Mooks was about, now I know that like any new issue of Gundam Hobby Life, Robot Hobby Life is going to be something that I'm going to want to pick up because I know they're really good. But if I didn't know that ahead of time and I just saw this on the shelf, I would think like, Macross, maybe not too interested in that. But one of the great things about these books is that even if the subject matter is not something that's particularly of taste to you, then you can still appreciate, some of the painting techniques, the color schemes, things like that. So I can still look at this and like I really like the way that this kit is painted and the colors that it's painted in, and I can kind of take that inspiration and kind of use this for reference for like how I may want to go about painting a different like a Dogram kit or something, a Votom's kit or something like that, which would also work well and painted in a very similar way, something like that in the future. So really, really cool on this one. It's definitely the heaviest weathered one that we've seen so far, which I think fits really well with the big chunky design of it being the armored Valkyrie. It does kind of make it look that much more kind of tank-like, and for it to be painted kind of a bit more heavily weathered, heavily dirtied up more so, fits really well with that. Okay, speaking of the Tomahawk here, very tank-like. This one's modeled by Kojima Dai Taicho. So this is a really interesting model here. This one is from Aoshima. Okay, this is an Aoshima kit. Definitely not one that I've built before, but for those of you guys who do like the walking tank aesthetic or the big guns aesthetic, it definitely, I think, would have a lot of appeal. Quite interesting. He also built this kind of vignette there, which looks pretty cool, where it's like a highway overpass kind of scene there, which you can kind of see here in the background. So it's cool that the way that it's photographed here, the background really just kind of falls to the background. I mean, like, it's not that large. I mean, it's a good size vignette, I guess, but I mean, like, it's not anything that is too busy or like hectic with like a lot of stuff going on. So it's cool that depending on like how it's photographed, that the whole scene that's built around this in this vignette just kind of really does fall to the background. I mean, your focus does stay right here on the main subject of the vignette. So it's quite well done in that sense. We got some other photos here where like kind of the background then is more in the foreground, but then you're still kind of drawn to look at the kit there. Oh, quite interesting, just the composition of that. It's a really nice, here's a little bit of work in progress on that. Really nice vignette, kind of diorama scene there for that. Very cool. Up next here, getting even larger, we've got the Destroyed Monster, modeled by Menda Co. Even though this one's big and with all the heavy artillery and everything, not too weathered here on this one, it does have some nice pre-shading going on, which is kind of giving it, you know, a bit of an appearance of some kind of realistic weathering to it just with the pre-shading. Otherwise, not too much else going on. It's looking kind of mostly kind of off the factory floor, fresh kind of. This is the model also from, let's see. Oh yeah, it's the old Bandai model. I'm not sure when this originally came out. I think it was originally released, yeah, 2010. So it's one that's been out for a while. I don't think that this was reprinted. Was it reprinted recently? I feel like I've kind of seen it around recently, and so kind of interesting. Anyway, pretty cool kit just because of its very interesting proportions. It's so like wide, and then of course has these big massive arm cannons and cannons up over the torso and everything, and these big chunky feet. It's a really interesting mecha design, one that, I don't know, looking at it in this book certainly makes me kind of interested in wanting to build one, to be honest, just for how weird the proportions are and having these big massive cannon arms. But yeah, pretty interesting in that pre-shading is really kind of cool, how it almost kind of is made to look sort of like a very subtle kind of camo effect on it. The way that that pre-shading is done, or the way that it's painted, basically, it looks like it's almost kind of like highlighted as well. So very interesting painting here on this one. It's got some, it looks like a kind of like blocky kind of camo pattern up on the cannons on the shoulders as well. Pretty cool looking. And then the big long cannons there. So actually, yeah, let's go back, because yeah, these over-the-shoulder cannons are custom, aren't they? Yeah, the ones that it comes with in the box are these four like long barrel cannons there. This is a custom backpack, the one that he made, the one that we're seeing in most of the pictures here. That's all like just like custom built, looks like just like a bunch of stuff kit bashed together, essentially. I'm not sure what like those main parts are from, but I mean, here you can see like the kind of full view of that with the different parts. Oh yeah, the cannons are also custom, so it looks like he made those so that they could be swapped out, like the original cannons there for the arms, and then his custom ones that he made. So anyway, a lot of cool there. You can see like the two different options for the cannons for the arms. Anyway, a lot of cool custom work on that. All right, here we've got the Super Messiah Valkyrie Alto Custom. This one also modeled by Naoki. This one looking very cool here. This is another Bandai model kit, painted in a similar style to the one that we saw from Naoki earlier, being kind of a very clean and very fresh paint looking on this. No weathering or anything on it, but just kind of painting it up very cleanly and nicely, basically looking like a production model here for that. So that looks really cool. A lot of really great detail on those kits, and you know, very busy design, but here you can just kind of see how when it's painted so nicely, how coherent it becomes. Up next here, the Tornado Pack Test Type. This one is modeled by Poo Kumagai. So another familiar name if you guys have been following this series. I believe he's probably also had works, I mean, in other publications as well, but definitely a staple of the Gundam Hobby Life, Robot Hobby Life series, I feel like. This kit as well looks really cool. That color scheme, quite unique on it. And here we can see what it looks like with the armor parts added onto it, with those heavy armor parts added onto the legs and the backpack and everything. Pretty cool kit. I have built one of these. Not this particular one, was it? Yeah, maybe it was. The Armor Messiah, I think, was... there's a couple versions of that anyway. I don't remember exactly which one it was that I built, but I think it might have been this one. But there's also some added parts add onto there. I think those are not from the original kit anyway. Those added backpack parts on there, so quite cool. Yeah, that looks like those are maybe scratch built and added on, but very interesting, quite cool to see. So even more kind of custom parts added onto that, so it's just got a ton of stuff on there. Very nice. Okay, the Lucifer, modeled by Suo Kawaguchi. Speaking of interesting painting and color schemes on it, this one is quite interestingly painted in that the purple is done in like a marbleized kind of purple, kind of like a marble effect. I'm not sure if you guys can see it very well because it's sort of subtle, and it's only, you know, the purple sections are only kind of here and there in between on this very kind of unique design here on this one. Let's see if there's any more kind of work in progress photos that show it any more clearly. Not really, but hopefully you guys can see that on some of these purple sections, that marble purple. Very interesting, and a lot of really great detail there on this kit as well, the way and just that's painted and everything. All right, up next here we've got the Siegfried, modeled by Ken16W, another very familiar name there. This one looks really cool just because it's got that kind of more utilitarian grayscale color scheme, less, you know, flashy with all the bright colors and everything. We have a little bit of that yellow accent on there, but the color scheme on this one's quite cool just because of it being so just grayscale, and then the pop of green up there on the equipment on the back, that's pretty wild as well. So really great use of colors here for this one. Wow, yeah, the yellow on the wings just really makes it pop. If it didn't have that, I mean, if it was just all gray, I mean, it still look nice, but how nice of an accent point is that yellow wing. Very cool. Again, really fresh, clean paint job on this, kind of very similar to like what we saw on like Naoki's build, and the past couple ones are all kind of done in this very similar style, so we're not seeing as much of the weathering so much on these last couple of builds. But I love the detail shots on this, just seeing how flawless the work is when you get in real close and like look at these details. I mean, looking around, you can't see any of like any kind of the typical little errors that you might see in a lot of builds. I mean, it's very flawless. It's a good way to describe that. So there it is, transformed. Up next here, back to Bandai's kit, which we saw at the beginning. This one is modeled by Jun Someya, and it's kind of clarified here that he's part of the Bandai Spirits hobby division, so somebody that works at Bandai actually did this one. Naoki works with Bandai from time to time on different projects, but it is kind of interesting that they did note that he actually is a Bandai Spirits hobby division person here for this one. But anyway, that all black, and it is very black color for this one, does make it a little bit harder to see. And you know, we typically say, you know, not to use straight black on a kit, but you know, it can be very stylistic, and in certain cases, you know, it can work, because this one is very stylized, and you can see it looks like he used a kind of glow-in-the-dark paint for the either glow-in-the-dark or UV reactive, but it looks like glow-in-the-dark maybe for the green accents, because up here it's kind of showing it glowing there. It's either that or he's got a UV light on it, but anyway, for the green accents, those glow. And so again, yeah, very stylized. It's a pretty unique take on that with the very stylized paint scheme on it, and it's cool to see. I don't particularly like it personally, but it's cool to see how the rest of these have all been kind of, you know, I don't want to say, I don't know, standard, but like kind of standard color schemes you might expect to see on a kit like this. This is the first one that's kind of like, oh, very, very different, very unique. All right, here we've got the Draken 3, modeled by Early Chop. Another really cool color scheme on this one, with that pretty wild decal there on the front of the shield. Cool with the Tall Geese 2 pose there with the big massive sword. I think it's the first time going through these that we've seen a big sword. Of course, typically you don't, I mean, again, not being that into Macross, I don't typically think of swords being too involved. It's usually just guns and, you know, artillery, stuff like that. Even this model kit is not one that I'm particularly familiar with. I'm not sure I've really seen it around too much. It is a Bandai model. Okay, all right, but yeah, there you go. Yeah, very interesting. This one also, I guess, had some UV elements to it there, I guess, in the clear part in the head. That's what they're highlighting there. Very cool design on this one, very different. I'm not sure if I've ever really seen this kit around too much. It's not one that I've seen as much as other Macross kits, that's for sure. Interesting. Okay, this one is the Valkyrie 2, modeled by Gas. This one looks like a very old Bandai model kit by the looks of it over here, just looking at the box art. I mean, looking at the kit as well, it does kind of look like it's probably an older kit, where I'm sure there was a lot of work done on it. If we can see, yeah, some work in progress. Let's see, there's a little bit here where you can see it kind of in progress there, and also right here, the original kit versus this custom modification, this custom build here. Yeah, definitely a lot of work had to go into it. It's like an 80s kit, right? You have to put quite a bit of work into it to get it to look as nice as it does, and it's pretty cool looking. There, definitely put a lot of work into that one. All right, let's see what we got here. So here's our Wild River example. This is Der Erste Kontakt. Apologies for my, I'm sure, terrible German pronunciation there for that, but this is Bandai's Regult standard type in this crashed scene here. So let's see what we got going on. A lot of these like close-up images, which are very cool. I want to see if there's like a more image where we can kind of see it more from a distance. So I guess it's kind of just down here. So you can kind of see in these very small pictures, just like this street scene with this big building, and the Regult's just kind of like been destroyed, I don't know, shot or whatever, and then crashed, fallen over, crashed into this building here. So we got the Making of Diorama. I wonder if they left off the G on purpose on that instead of making, but Making of Diorama. And so you can see how the building was built first to actually look, you know, pretty pristine there. And then the model kit was made, and then the street scene was made with a little tank there and everything. So I guess maybe it's made to look like it was shot down with this tank, and then he kind of did the damage on the building and crashed the model kit into the building, and then kind of finished off all of the damage and everything kind of in between the two kits. But yeah, Wild River is known for his very detailed and very good dioramas, if you guys are unfamiliar with his works, but pretty interesting work here for this one. It's definitely something pretty unique. I mean, we've seen, you know, crashed buildings and stuff like that, but at this scale, it is not quite as common, I feel like. And there you go, even the pilot kind of coming out the back of the Regult there. So pretty cool scene for sure. I wish that there was even some more photographs of that, just to see some more of the scene, because I'd like to see, I mean, we just have a couple of smaller photographs there, but it would be nice to have some more. I'm sure there's a lot of really great information in the text. I haven't mentioned that so far, but I mean, as you guys have seen, it's mostly photographs in here, although there is some text here and there in between, and obviously it's all in Japanese. So it's one of those things that if you guys are interested, especially if you're Macross fans, just kind of want to know some more about the modeling, it'd be cool to go in and translate some of that stuff there. Here we have, switching over now to Aura Battler, we've got the drum loaf modeled by Bud, one of those classic like 80s Aura Battler kits where, again, it's taking a very old kit, and here you can see what it looks like just snapped up there, and made it look pretty cool, pretty impressive there, with some nice, again, kind of subtle weathering on it and cool effects with the clear parts for the wings in the back. It looks like he actually customized those, because how they come out of the box, they're just like these flat wings. And by the looks of it, let's see if there's any work in progress on that. It looks like those are either just custom made, or what he did was take those wing parts and actually kind of like melt and reshape them to make them look like that. But here you can see the unpainted version of the wings, and they look like, I'm not sure, I mean, they're just plain clear there, whereas the original ones were molded in clear yellow. So I would imagine it's not just the original wings just melted and reshaped, but maybe that's something that just he made custom for these. Really cool looking though, and pretty impressive. Has like a really nice accent point there on the back for that. I guess here you can see, yeah, so what he did was he cut, they are melted, it looks like. What he did was cut pieces of clear plot plate, it looks like, or just some kind of clear plastic, and probably did have to melt them a bit to get them have that kind of like wavy, natural sort of shape to them. But then I'm not sure how he then made the kind of lines in there. Maybe just kind of like scribed with a scriber or something like that, the lines. So again, would be a good opportunity to go in and check with a translator, translate some of the text, because I'm sure there's some more text about that, about how those wings were made. You can also see some work in progress for like how some texture was added on the underside of like the beetle shell parts there, it looks like. Pretty cool build there, yeah, very interesting. Looks like you also added like fishing weights there into the feet as well, again, just to kind of help it to stay standing. another kind of helpful trick there for you guys. All right, up next we got the Aoshima Ideon kit here. This one is, let's see, modeled by Maskudo 13. Also kind of have a little subtle advertisement in there again for those Ideon paints from Gaia Notes, but this one definitely not in that red color, which we typically see this kit in, but in a very interesting, again, kind of marble paint style here for this, with the kind of orangish, goldish, yellowish kind of color scheme. I can't tell if this is all in the same color and it's just the way that it catches the light looks totally different, or if it is actually painted, like certain parts are painted in different colors. I can't quite tell. No, it looks like it is, because if you look at this one here, this shoulder looks very yellow, but then in this picture it looks very red. So I think it's just in some sort of like color shift kind of paint. Here's the coloring data right here, so it'd be good to take a look at that. I'll have to whip out the translator and take a closer look later, but yeah, it looks like it's in like a color shift paint, so depending on the angle you're seeing at, it's going to look either more yellow or more kind of orangish. Pretty interesting though, very cool, and the whole marbleized look on that is quite interesting. Yeah, again here just about the colors, those specific paints from Gaia Notes. And here we've got the Iron Gear. This one is Hasegawa model kit, kind of fairly recent release, I believe. Yeah, just 2012 in December, so just about 6 months ago when this kit originally came out. Kind of a transport craft here. This one is in what scale? 1 to 500 scale. Part of a different genre challenge from Modeler. So let's see. This one's modeled by Takumi Akiharu. So I'm guessing that, again, if I were to get the translator out on that, that based on this being a different genre challenge for Modeler, is that he normally doesn't do like this kind of like ship models. And so it was a challenge for him to try something that he, wasn't used to. And I mean, it came out looking really good, and I'm all for that. Definitely trying out something that you've not tried before, which is kind of like tangential. I mean, like, it's still like a sci-fi model. Maybe this Takumi-san is somebody who maybe typically does a lot of like Macross models, for example, or Gundam models. And then doing a model kit like this, I mean, even though it's a totally different scale and it's a ship instead of like a mobile suit or something like that, it's still a sci-fi, mecha model. So a lot of the same techniques, even though it seems like it's very different, a lot of the same painting techniques and things like that would still apply. You just have to kind of keep in mind the scale of it and different aspects like the clear parts and things like that. So, all right, here you've got the Umi Shinonome seriously builds her favorite robot plastic models segment here. This is the 002 segment because, yeah, if I remember correctly, in the first issue of our RHL, there was a segment for Umi-san as well. So it seems like this is going to be a staple of the RHL series as well, is having a segment specifically for Umi-san, which I'm not gonna argue with that. I don't mind it. So here we've got the process of crafting and painting Valkyrie. So this looks like it's stills from a episode of her YouTube channel, and a little bit here about like the custom modeling for that, removing the seam lines, making the canopy more glossy, for example. So you do have a little bit of some modeling tips in here from Umi-san on painting this kit. And then we've got the kit itself. So again, if you guys who are unaware, I think a lot of you guys are, but she's really quite good at modeling. And this is just another example of that. Really nice work here on this. This is another one of those 1/72nd scale Hasegawa non-transforming kits. So this would be the Gerwalk form there of the VF1S. And we've got some more photos and just kind of interview here, I would guess, with Umi-san talking about the kit. So yeah, pretty cool. All right, so here's the special interview with Bandai Spirits about their new kit. Of course, we have another one on the way later on this year, another new Macross kit from Bandai coming out in their new HG line of Macross kits. But this one is all about the YF19 HG 1/100 scale kit. So again, yeah, if you guys were interested about that, you can kind of get it directly from the horse's mouth with a Bandai Spirits representative talking about that kit. So that would be pretty interesting to read some more about that, because it's not too often that we get a lot of information like directly from Bandai, right? So that's cool to see. All right, and then a special interview too is with Max at Plamax, Max Watanabe, and then this guy, I'm not sure, I can't read the kanji there for his name, but anyway, again, talking about the minimum factory Macross kits. So there's the minimum factory like character kits, and there's the minimum factory like nose cone kits, where it's just like the front part in 1/20 scale of the different Macross kits. And then there's the full 1/20 Macross kits. There's the Gerwalk form, there's a fighter form, and a Batroid mode here. So here we can see about the Batroid mode. I believe the Batroid mode is not released yet, as far as I know. I think just the first two, the Gerwalk and the fighter mode, were the ones that were released. But anyway, here's a interview about that, and then some images here of the Strike Batroid Valkyrie VF1S, and this one is modeled by Max. So this is the full 1/20 scale kit, so that means that this kit is gigantic. I'm not sure if it says in here what the size of it is. It probably does say somewhere, but it's got to be, I don't know, probably 60 centimeters or so, 80 centimeters. It's got to be pretty large, standing, like the head height of this. But of course, in typical Max Watanabe style, the painting on this looks really, really nice. And because the kit is so large, I mean, it's like a huge canvas for Max to do his thing with the painting of it. So it looks really, really nice there, the painting on that. And then the 1/20 scale Lin Min Mei kit there. That one has been out in the minimum factory line for quite a while. So very early one. It's the 04. It's the 4th release in the line. Let's see if that doesn't say when that originally came out. No, but it's probably been out for 10 years or so, I guess. I don't know. And then some crosstalk here, some more interview with Naoki and these two guys here. So some more cool interview stuff there, just talking about, seems like probably just kind of Macross in general. And that kind of goes on here. So yeah, if you guys are, willing to put in the time to, translate that bit by bit, I'm sure there's a lot of cool information there talking about just kind of the development of this issue and kind of like why they like Macross and all that. So anyway, that's going to be it for this issue. Another Gundam advertisement here at the end. So it's interesting how the whole thing is still framed in Gundam. We have some Gundam at the very end, Gundam at the very beginning. Otherwise, no Gunpla in here because this is Robot Hobby Life. For Gundam, we'll have to wait for the next GHL issue to come out. But that's it for today, guys. Let me know your thoughts. What were some of the builds in there that you particularly liked? And of course, you can let me know all of your criticisms towards me about everything that I got wrong about the Macross stuff. I don't know, maybe someday I'll have to get a bit more into it, but I don't know. For now, anyway, that's it for this episode. Thank you all so much for your support. If you want to check out some of the model kits for yourself, of course, you can do that at USA Gundam Store. The link will be down in the video description below, as always, as well as paints, tools, supplies, everything else that you guys might need. So check that out. Thank you all so much for your support. Like the video and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Make sure to stick around for plenty more. Have a great day, guys. I'll see y'all later.